Our next question comes from Ashley, and she asks, how long did it take you to go from student to event planner? And did you have any help from the school as far as jobs after you completed your program? I actually didn't attend the QC school, but my studio manager, Diana, who is also an event planner with my company, and she's been working with me for almost 5 years, I'd say about 4.5 years, actually did attend the QC school while she was finishing up her bachelor's degree at UConn. And when she came and interned with me, she clearly had a real sense of knowledge about the industry that set her apart from any of the other interns that were working with me at the time, amongst some other things. And I really attribute that to the QC school. So while I'm not a graduate of the QC school, I did graduate college, and it took me roughly 4 years to actually open my company and gain clients, but I didn't actually do this right out of college. And there's another question that asks me how I got started, and I will give you a little bit of backstory about that. But just because I didn't attend the QC school doesn't mean that the QC school isn't, going to be a fundamental component to the process of launching your own business or becoming an event planner. I just happened to go a different route. But being a tutor here, I can tell you the valuable information that they give their students, and how involved they are with their students, and how much they care about their students' feedback and how well they're doing, and how much time they invest in each individual student. So I hope that's answered your question. Okay, Sonia has a really great question for me. Do I believe that this is my calling? The answer to that is yes. And if so, how did you come up with the idea of combining your two strengths, styling and event planning, as the two are usually at either extremes, or people do one or the other? This is actually a really great question, Sonia, because there has been a lot of conversations recently in the industry about whether you are an event planner or an event designer, and how could you be both? I happen to be both. I happen to be a person who understands organization and planning, and then also a person who understands how to design things and get things pulled together from an aesthetic standpoint. This comes naturally to me because I feel as though, as a designer, I need to have a clear understanding of logistics and timing and how the day is going to flow from that standpoint in order for me to prepare a design. And the same can be said for being somewhat of a logistical guru. Is on that end of the spectrum, I need to know what the overall aesthetic is, what the feeling of the day is, and all those kinds of things. So for me, they seem to equally go together, and I couldn't possibly imagine not having one with the other. I'm concerned equally about, what the china looks like, and, the shape of the plates and the pattern on the plates and how that expresses the design, as I am on if the plate is the correct size for the entree, and how many of those plates we're going to need, and how many extra we should order in case of breakage. So, I'm concerned with both of those things, one on the design side and one on the logistical and planning side. I'm concerned about the tent and how it's going to look and be draped, and where we're going to place chandeliers, and what kind of lighting schematic we're going to use in the tent. And I'm also concerned about table arrangement and how traffic is going to flow inside and outside of the tent, and when we're going to erect the tent, and where on the property makes the most sense, and have we pulled all of our permits and spoken to local authorities that need to be informed about what we're doing on that day. So on one hand, I'm concerned about the design, and on the other hand, I am concerned about the logistics. And to me, they seem to go hand in hand. I do think, and plenty of people do this very well, they're one or the other. They can be a really excellent planner and coordinator, and they may not be interested in the creative portion. And then you have people who are just so creative and don't really find enjoyment or don't have a knack for the planning and coordination side. So there are people who, choose to do one or the other. I happen to choose both because it works for me. And my advice would be to you to consider a path that works for you. And if you don't like one or the other, you can always bring someone amazing in on your team who has real strengths in where you have weaknesses, and they can offer those services to your client, and you can work hand in hand with one of your team members who might be the executor and you are the designer. And so you work together to bring out the whole event. That would be my advice to you if you feel like you are on one side or the other. But if you feel like you're open to doing both and you have a knack for both, I totally encourage and support it. So I hope that's answered your question. It was a really excellent question. And let's look at the next question. Kathy asks, do you find it easy to leverage consulting services as well as planning services? She writes, I think there is a way to meet the needs of those who want to do it themselves but need consulting. What have you found successful in consulting as well as planning and the ability to leverage both? Kathy, I don't really consult. If somebody has a question, I'm happy to answer their question via email. I don't believe in people having to pay for every answer. If somebody wants to hire me for a 2-hour meeting so they can come in and ask me some questions or provide some vendor referrals, I'm happy to charge them my hourly rate. But typically I work with people and clients and couples on the entire process of their wedding from start to finish. Every aspect is covered by my company, and that's the way I prefer it to be. We do offer a month of coordination service, which means we come in about 6 to 8 weeks out from their wedding, and then maintain all those final details in the 6 to 8 weeks. But what we also do is maintain contact with that client throughout the whole process, because I want to make sure that they're hiring the right people. I want to make sure that any information, any questions they have are answered, so that when I come in 8 to 6 weeks out, I'm stepping into something that's already been planned successfully, even if they don't want to hire me to do that. The way that I feel a successful event happens is with the right people and the right decisions. So we want to make sure they're hiring the right businesses to execute their jobs correctly, and we want to make sure that there's no glaring red flags. I also don't provide this service to any event that is going to be logistically challenging. If a wedding's at a home, I don't provide this type of service. I need to be really hands-on for that. So this service is really only available to clients who are getting married in a hotel or getting married in a place where, facilities are located there, the caterer is located there, we're just bringing in some rentals for an aesthetic purpose, and it's really about time management and then also alleviating all that stress the 6 weeks to 8 weeks leading up to the wedding. But for the most part, our clients are really people who hire us a year in advance to design and plan their wedding. But just because that's what I do doesn't mean that that's what you should do. I do think there's quite a market for consulting services for event planning, and it's really about what you want to provide for service and whether you're going to make money doing that. There are things that I did in the past that I thought I should do that didn't make me any money, so I stopped doing them. Renting things out, building an inventory of decor items and then renting them out in my market and for my clientele, that did not make me money, so I stopped doing it. Little ancillary services, offering things like, we'll style your engagement shoot and things like that. Nobody ever bought it. I stopped offering it, or it didn't make me money. So you really have to think about what services you're going to offer and what is your margin on the cost of the service versus your expenses. What do you take away from that, and is it worth your time? So I hope that's answered your question. I'm sorry that I'm not intimately familiar with consulting services because I really don't do that. I mostly do full-scale event planning and design, so that's my business. But I do think there's opportunities there to consult with people who have questions or, want to hire you to do a specific task. But ultimately, for me, that's not going to make me money, so I'm not going to do that. But in your market, that could be very different. It could be very, advantageous of you to offer that service. It's really about what you know about your market and who your target market is.